Welcome to part second of the video, and in this we would be talking about the structural deficit and link with CFA, Certified Financial Analyst, not Charter Financial Analyst, Certified Financial Analyst. So let's go to page number 11 of the Janus Henderson report. Page number 11. And I'm sure that 90% of you have heard Janus Henderson first time, that there is a hedge fund known as Janus Henderson. I'm pretty sure about that. So page number 11 of the Janus Henderson report, which is very latest, April 2021. By end of 2020, central banks owned 24% of the global government debt, which practically means that the total government debt is 62.5 trillion. So 25% precisely is near about 12 trillion, you can say, near about 15 trillion. It means that the 15 trillion is owned by the central banks. Now, in this, I'm not deliberating the difference between the debt owned by the central bank and debt owned by the government. That I'm not deliberating, but anyways. The proportion was obviously much higher in the countries that have active QE policies, quantitative easing policies. In the US, 85% of 2020 borrowings was by Federal Reserve. 85% of 2020 borrowings is by Federal Reserve. In UK, two-thirds, which is near about 66%, is by Bank of England. So Bank of England rose the rate by 25 bips few days ago, which means that 66% of the funding is by Bank of England, which precisely means a heavy cost to Bank of England on the way. And near about one third, which is 33%, is by Bank of Japan. So three countries: US 85%, UK 66%, Bank of Japan 33%. This is reality. Okay, guys, we discussed about Janus Henderson, we discussed about structural deficit, we discussed about the central bank debt, and I'm sure that many people of the globe haven't heard that even central banks raise the money for the governments. Thanks to Janus Henderson. Not to me, to you. Let's talk about fiction, where millions of dollars worth of fees is paid every year, which acts as an income for CFA Institute. On paper, they have committees, numerous committees, who takes care of the examination material, the learning outcomes, the question and answer session, and many more things. But the hard reality is these committees stand nowhere to the report I have just presented. If I had presented this report, the statistics, without showing you the Janus Henderson report, none of them would have trusted. But now, no one can refuse. Yes, the hardcore CFA people, those who have proud in their degrees, but no knowledge, they would definitely be differ. Now, in this CFA, Go to page number 13. You know that we already acquired the CFA level 2 material thanks to Amazon, and level 2 material thanks to Amazon, and we are very soon going to be paying for level 3. Let us done with few modules and have few videos, and then we go with the level 3 module also available on Amazon. So all these books which we are using for material for video making, they all bought from Amazon. That's very important. So this is not from a third party torrent internet download. This is from Amazon. You need to learn that. In this, there are three big issues which we have in the bond pricing. Theoretical bond prices is given, but what the hell is the practical bond pricing? So let me give an example. There are two kinds of interest risk a bond holder face. Number one is the reinvestment risk. Number two is the market risk. Theoretically, but practically it is incorrect. Practically, a bond holder face a risk called market risk. Like I said in my very first video, Lord Brahma created multiple universe, not one universe. Earth is a part of which universe we do not know. Except Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, we are not aware which universe is having Earth. So bondholder face market risk. Reinvestment risk is a part of market risk. Reinvestment risk is of two types, and I'm sure you haven't heard about it. One is called MIRR, which is modified internal rate of return. One is MIRRX, which is again modified internal rate of return. But the only difference between the former, which is MIRR, and the new one, MIRRX, is the former have uniform dates, while the new one, MIRRX, having no uniform dates. And this is the first reality. In the world of financial markets, reinvestment cannot be at uniform dates. Let's take an example of Bank of England. There were hypes that Bank of England may end up increasing the rates. If you are a bondholder, whether this is a corporate bond, whether this is a junk bond, whether this is an investment grade bond or not, you would have hold your positions because you was waiting for Bank of England to increase the rate. And once Bank of England would increase the rate, you would come in the market and invest. You get 25 pips more. But all those who invested earlier, not waited for Bank of England, at least they lost 25 pips. It's a huge loss, by the way. 25 bips is not a small amount. So is MIRR is all about uniform dates? First of all, this book do not have MIRR. Forget MIRR. This book do not have MIRR. So do not even think about MIRRX. That is the difference between theory and fiction. My job hasn't done as yet. I hope I clarified. CFA, Certified Financial Analyst book do not have MIRR, but it talks about fixed income at the top. Got my point? Now, I just initiate this point and rest I covered in the part 3. Once I have a bond, and generally who invest in bond, the big boys like Goldman, JP, Citi, Standard Chartered, they invest in bonds. They have big prop positions, big client positions, and they valued at multiple terms. So they take a very big positions in FICC, and what exactly happened, they take big positions in bonds. But they take positions not as a buy and hold. They take position buy and sell. Their ultimate objective is money, profit. So what are the various factors that a bond trader at JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, Citi, UBS, Morgan Stanley, they face, which is not covered by CFA? This we will deliberate in video 3. But before I quit, there is a huge difference between the fiction and the reality. And I repeat, this is fiction. Have a great time ahead. See you in the part 3. Welcome to part 3 of the video. And in this video, we would be covering what all issues the traders are facing when it comes to the actual bond trading. I repeat, the actual bond trading. If I speak about any bank in the world, whether this bank is Goldman Sachs, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, Deutsche, Commerce Bank, UBS, ANZ, Wells ANZ, National Australian Bank, Westpac, or any other bank, they have either a prop desk, which means a proprietary desk, where they trade their own money, or they have a client desk, where they are trading the client money. Some of the banks in the world, because the list is very comprehensive, but some of the banks in the world have both. They have proprietary as well as the client money, which means that they take position using their own money and they take position using the client's money. Now, I would like to take once again the note from this book to explain you that this is a reality. This book, which is by Bloomberg. Although I again challenge this book that there are many things in the books which are not written, because now I reached to the page number 90, and when I shot the first video pertaining to this book, I was at page number 41. So soon I would have one more video. Page number 83. Borrowing rates historically tend to rise in days around the end of each quarter, as the bank hoard cash in an attempt to window dress their financial result. Banks hoard cash in an attempt to window dress their financial results. It was a quick of the market that some traders didn't factor into their models. Into their models. Early enough, Haynes thought of it as a easy money and had 2 million riding on every basis point. 2 million riding on every basis point. Page number 83, Bloomberg. The traders who trade for the bank, big banks, they take FICC, fixed income, currency, and commodities. I will not discuss currency and commodities, but in fixed income, they take predominant position in bonds, which includes the treasury bonds, investment grade bonds, non-investment grade bonds, the corporate bonds, bonds with some little bit issues pertaining to credit rating, and many more type of bonds. But the biggest point is the valuation of the bonds, basically the positions which they are taking, are not backed up by the theory which is provided in the CFA book. The valuation of the bond is dependent on the factors like the credit risk. It depends on the quantitative easing by the central bank. So I again take an example on this book. But by 26th June, his plan was airy. Central banks were flooding the system with the cheap money, and Haynes was swimming against a tsunami of cash that was dragging the benchmarks. And as we all know that central banks are flooding the system with a huge amount of cash. Why they are flooding, we knew the reason, and the evidence is this report. Janus Henderson Sovereign Bond Index. I have shown this report last time also. It is evident that in page number 2, this report is clearly mentioning that by end of 2020, the central banks, basically the governments, holding a debt to the tune of 62.5 trillion. I repeat, 62.5 trillion. You can see the Janus Henderson. If you go to page number 11, which seems to be my favorite page, it is clearly mentioning that central banks are issuing the debt on behalf of the government. For US, it is 85%. For UK, it is 66%. For Bank of Japan, it is 33%. Now, when it comes to the bond pricing, the theoretical bond pricing computation by CFA Institute, Certified Financial Analyst. Please don't treat this as a charter financial analyst. By Certified Financial Analyst is completely incorrect, because the bond pricing comes from OAS, option adjusted spread. It depends upon QST, quality spread differential. It comes from the CDS risk, credit default swap. It comes from the sovereign credit risk of that particular country. So example, if today Sri Lankan government, which is a reality, is facing some issues, rather multiple issues on a credit front, then the companies who issued the bonds in the Sri Lankan domestic market and subsequently subscribed by the Sri Lankan nationals, or maybe institutional investors, or maybe some other people, they also facing the heat, because the collapse of the bonds by Sri Lankan government means the CDS, the credit spread or quality spread differential impact on these bonds also. Then how CFA Institute, that is the biggest stupidity of the life. How CFA Institute in his level 1 book can mention that the bond pricing is based on a yield which change on a tick. And what the hell is tick? It is nanosecond, which is many times of a second, fraction of a second. If you have Reuters, if you have Bloomberg, you would get to know it changes at nanosecond. Now, the biggest regret of the life is, I repeat, the regret of the life is millions of students worldwide spare millions of dollars on the CFA degree. And they believe that the bond pricing is done in a way as mentioned in a CFA level 1 book versus the reality we mentioned here versus the reality we mentioned at the Janus Henderson. Bond pricing is completely different of what you are thinking. This is something we need to understand. This is part 3. See you in the part 4 of the video. Welcome to the part 4 of the video, and in this I would be covering another important thing about the bond pricing. When we speak about bond pricing is actually done by two set of people in the world. Now, number one is the institutional investors. Now, who the hell are institutional investors? The institutional investors are big people, just like big hedge funds in the world, like PIMCO, and all big hedge funds who take substantial positions in the bonds. They also include ETFs. Now, ETFs means exchange traded funds. As we speak, the world hold near about 7 trillion. You heard me right. 7 trillion worth of ETF market. And majority of the ETF market in the world are either passive or active. Now, when it comes to passive, they take substantial positions in the bonds of the multiple countries. While when it comes to active, they take substantial positions in the stocks like Tesla, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and in many cases, the startups like Uber and multiple. And they lost also. So I repeat, as we speak, there are many reports in the world who give different picture of the hedge funds. Like some reports are saying that the hedge funds are near about $1 trillion corpus. Some are saying they have a more than $1 trillion corpus, while some are saying they have more than 10 to 15 trillion of corpus. Henceforth, to me, it is difficult to give an actual number because there are multiple sources. But when it comes to ETF, the number is more or less unique, which is 7 trillion. Even if I assume that 40% of the ETF market is passive, which means near about 3 trillion is bond market. Forget the big boys like Goldman, JP, Citi, Standard Chartered, UBS, Barclays, how much positions they are taking, covering their prop and client desk. We have no information about that, henceforth no comment, because this number never comes in public. What comes in public is the quarter number of FICC, which is fixed income currencies and commodities. Apart from that, no number comes in public. When these big boys, which includes the hedge funds, the family offices, the pension funds, the ETF market, when they take position in the bond market, they never take position in, not always take position in, I would say, you know, the as and when the bond is issued, which is called when issued market. I'm not deliberating much on the when issued market, but I'm sure that when issued is also missing here. But let me see. They buy and sell from the secondary market. Now, when they buy and sell from the secondary market, they are subject to one thing which is called amortization. Now, what the hell is amortization? Now, amortization means if a bond who is originally issued at a yield of 4%, and assuming for multiple reasons, increase in credit spread or decrease, or for multiple reason the yield is at 5%, which means the bond is trading lesser than the principal. So principal assuming $100, now the bond is trading is around 95 to $96. The $4 which the less these big boys, hedge fund and all, they paid, this is their gain, right? But what if the yield is not 4%, rather it is 3%? Now the bond is 105, which means they paid $5 more than what it's supposed to be. This is their loss. So the net MIRR, which includes the modified internal rate of return, rather, I'm incorrect here, the net MIRRX, because the timing of the reinvestment cannot be uniform. We cannot have a uniform timing. This is the hard reality, and we need to accept that reality. But unfortunately, the bookish people like CFA, Certified Financial Analyst, they are completely away from the reality. Now, MIRRX should cover, rather in a practical cases, covering the amortization impact. Because if I have paid 95, which means the $5 is the gain. If I have paid 105, it means $5 is my loss. And that needs, I repeat, that needs to be adjusted against my net PNL. And what the hell is FICC? Which is fixed income, currencies, and commodities. And this FICC is netting off that impact from the PNL. The traders have their Excel models. In some cases, it is a proprietary model, which is by the banks, and these models are netting off that impact. Now, the end result which they get is MIRR, and that MIRR also linked to the cash trade, but that is a little bit technical. This ends up the net bond pricing. These big boys like these hedge funds, big mutual funds, big ETF, exchange traded funds, big boys like Goldman, JP, Citi, Barclays, UBS, ANZ, Westpac, they do. This is the net PNL they are getting. Trading is all subject to volatility. Sometimes they win, good. Sometimes they lose also, which is bad. But this is how it works. Like in this quarter, December 2021, I repeat, in December 2021 quarter, majority of the top banks lost it. But if I go with this book called Certified Financial Analyst, then they never lost it. Because the world is unique. There are no arbitrage opportunities, there is no volatility, and more importantly, the market goes with the academic principle. And if you look at page number 13, I have clearly mentioned, just check this out. You can see that in page number 13 I have mentioned, I have making my notes, right? In page number 13 I have mentioned the right formula. And what is the right formula? The MPS, the market price of a bond, is nothing but the factor divided by the yield. And what is factor? Factor is principal plus MIRRX plus minus amortization. Because I might have bought at 95, I might have bought at 105. So it is plus minus amortization. I repeat, MPS, the market price of the bond is dependent on, is a formula of factor divided by the yield. Factor formula I have given to you. Yield is tick by tick Meyer, and I'm not going into the detail, which is TBT. But having said that, one thing which we need to understand, that the highest stupidity in the life is that the big boys, Goldman, JP, Citi, Standard Chartered, Barclays, the big ETF players in the world, they all are incorrect. Their trading desk, who are making billions of dollars in every quarter, rather every month sometimes, they all are incorrect. The models, on which the bond is traded, the bond prices comes on Reuters screens, they comes on the Bloomberg screen, the benchmark curves which are coming on Reuters, they coming on the Bloomberg, they are also completely incorrect. The only right thing is that theory knowledge, and specifically talking here, the theory knowledge which is by the CFA Institute. And millions of people study this knowledge and believe that they become king. This is our video covering till what extent, I repeat, till what extent the level of stupidity we have in the degrees. Thanks to the Janus Henderson for their research report. Thanks to Amazon for providing these books on their platform. And thanks to the God that I dealt practically on Reuters and Bloomberg, which I'm doing even today. And thanks to the Banking Connects, who are in the world of reality rather than the fiction. So guys, next time you're proud of your CFA degree, Certified Financial Analyst, note down a number: 9899242978. 9899242978. Next time when you're proud of your CFA degree, I really love to talk to you, because I would also like to understand till what extent your degree links with the world of practicality. Have a great time.